Every person lives inside a story. Some stories empower us, some imprison us. Some people grow up believing they're destined for greatness, while others grow up believing they'll never become more than the labels placed upon them. Failure, outcast, broken, too late, not enough. And after hearing those things long enough, people start mistaking those narratives for truth. But what if the story isn't over? What if the person you are today is not the person you're meant to remain? What if you still hold the pen? Welcome to the Hero Hour, the podcast about transformation, resilience, identity, and rewriting the narratives that shape our lives. I'm Nathaniel D Borie, and I want to thank you for being here for the very first episode of this journey. This podcast exists because I believe something deeply, that people are capable of becoming more than the stories they were handed. And in a world where so many people feel lost, stuck, misunderstood, or trapped inside identities they never truly chose, I think conversations like these matter because stories shape everything. They shape how we see ourselves, how we treat other people, what we believe we deserve, and what we believe is possible. And sometimes the hardest thing a person can do is believe they're allowed to change. I've always been fascinated by stories, not just fictional stories, but human stories. The stories people tell themselves, the stories society tells about them, the stories that define people before they ever get the chance to define themselves. And I think a lot of people spend years trapped inside narratives they didn't write. Sometimes it comes from childhood, sometimes it comes from failure, sometimes it comes from rejection, fear, loss, judgment, trauma, isolation. Sometimes it comes from simply feeling like you don't fit into the world around you. And over time, those experiences can become identities. You stop saying, I failed, and you start saying, I am a failure. You stop saying, I'm struggling, and start believing, this is all I'll ever be. I think a lot of people silently carry those beliefs, or maybe not so silently. And I think many people are desperate for permission to believe they can evolve beyond them. That's a big reason this podcast exists. The Hero Hour is about reclaiming authorship over your life. It's about understanding that being the hero of your own story doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean always winning. It doesn't mean becoming famous. It doesn't even mean life isn't hard. Being the hero of your own story means choosing to continue. It means confronting difficult truths, taking responsibility for your future, facing fear instead of surrendering to it, and deciding that your worst moment does not get to define your entire identity. This podcast is a space for conversations about growth, resilience, reinvention, purpose, mindset, creativity, and transformation. Some episodes will be solo reflections like this one. Others will feature guests, people who have overcome challenges, rebuilt themselves, reinvented their lives, or discovered purpose through adversity. But this won't be a podcast about success. I'm not interested in surface level conversations. I want to understand who people were before they changed. Because transformation is the real story. If you continue this journey with me, here's what you can expect from the Hero Hour. You can expect honest conversations, not perfection, not pretending to have all the answers, but real discussions about identity, self-worth, fear, purpose, failure, storytelling, mental resilience, and becoming the person you're capable of becoming. We'll talk about the narratives we inherit, the narratives we create, and how people rewrite them. We'll break down personal growth, fictional heroes, redemption arcs, mindset shifts, and the psychology of transformation. Because whether people realize it or not, human beings understand themselves through story. And when people change the story they believe about themselves, their lives often begin to change too. Maybe you're listening to this right now feeling stuck. Maybe you feel behind in life. Maybe you feel misunderstood. Maybe you feel like your past has already decided your future. Maybe you've spent years believing a narrative that tells you you're not enough, not capable, not worthy, or too broken to become more. If that's you, I want you to know something. Your story is not finished. You are still becoming. And no matter how dark a chapter may feel, a chapter is not the entire book. That doesn't mean change is easy. Sometimes rewriting your narrative is painful. Sometimes it means confronting parts of yourself you've avoided for years. Sometimes it means letting go of identities that once protected you. But growth often begins the moment people stop asking, why am I like this? And start asking, who do I want to become? At the end of every episode, I want to leave you with something practical, a challenge, a reflection, something to carry into your own life. So here's your first Heroes Challenge. Take a piece of paper or open the Notes app on your phone and write down one negative narrative you've accepted about yourself. Maybe it's, I'm not confident. I always fail. I'm too late. I'm not good enough. I'll never change. Write it down, then ask yourself, is this objectively true? Or is this a story I've repeated long enough that it started feeling permanent? Because sometimes the first step towards transformation is recognizing that not every thought deserves to become your identity. Thank you for spending this first Hero Hour with me. If this episode resonated with you, I hope you'll continue this journey as we explore what it means to grow, evolve, and reclaim authorship over our lives. And remember, no matter where your story began, the ending is still unwritten. Until next time, be the hero of your own story and rewrite the narrative.